Who's afraid of Elizabeth Warren? Well, Wall Street surely has been. The financial sector waged a successful battle to keep Warren from heading the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which was her brainchild, meant to regulate financial institutions' consumer products like mortgages and private student loans. And joining that battle was nearly every Republican senator who wrote a letter to President Obama after he nominated Warren, saying they would not vote to confirm any single director of the Bureau. Warren, of course, wound up getting a job right alongside those Republicans as a U.S. Senator herself, and she's made financial regulation her signature issue, talking bluntly and eloquently in speeches that have a tendency to go viral online. Here she is in February asking bank regulators why they hadn't taken any big banks to trial for their role in the financial crisis.
Anyone else want to tell me about the last time you took a Wall Street bank to trial? You know, I just want to note on this. There are district attorneys and U.S. attorneys who are out there every day squeezing ordinary citizens on sometimes very thin grounds and taking them to trial in order to make an example, as they put it. I'm really concerned that too big to fail has become too big for trial. That just seems wrong to me.
But how successful has Elizabeth Warren actually been at getting her policy ideas enacted? She introduced legislation this week that gained a lot of attention in the liberal world. A bill that would prohibit employers from using a prospective employee's bad credit history to deny them a job. Now, it's an important bill, with 1 in 10 unemployed people reporting that they have been denied a job due to a credit check. But will it go anywhere? In fact, will any of her policies make it into law? Does she really have the teeth to keep Wall Street afraid? Joining our table now is Aisha Moodie-Mills, Senior Fellow with the Center for American Progress, and it's always great to see you.
Great to be here.
So I'm going to go right to you, Aisha. I mean, Elizabeth Warren is obviously a rock star on the left. Her speeches and railing against the banks go viral. She's even attracted speculation about whether she should run in 2016. But how effective has she actually been so far as a legislator?
I mean, I think that we have to really look at the legislature to determine how effective she can be, right? So, I mean, it's not fair to just say Elizabeth Warren is doing absolutely nothing because she's going it alone. I think that, she, to me, is a symbol of where we're going in terms of this economic populist tone of a nation. Mm-hmm. And I think that the things that she is pushing are really reflecting what people feel. And at the end of the day, that's how she's going to be judged, not necessarily how many pieces of legislation did she get passed in this Congress.
Well, so she's sort of become the liberal line in a lot of ways, Heather. And this new bill, this new idea that she's come up with, the idea of outlawing the practice of not hiring someone because of a bad credit history, how important would that be for workers?
It's extremely important. Actually, this is an issue that Demos has been working on for quite some time. We have a report called Discredited, which looked at how much this practice is being used. Almost 50% of employers are actually using credit, screening people for credit. And what this does is it just compounds the misfortune, right? If you look at what is actually revealed by a credit history when you're applying for a job, it's not. There's been no correlation found. Even TransUnion, the credit bureau that actually sells this stuff and is the sort of corporate interest behind these laws, they said in 2010, actually, we have found no research that shows this is a correlation. But what it does show is that you have, survived a recession. Right. You have not had health insurance at some point and have had medical debt. You've had some sort of medical misfortune. So Elizabeth Warren, who really, she is left, but more she's with the middle, right? She is standing up for the middle class. And this kind of issue, can you get back on your feet when you've been knocked down by our economy and by our frayed social safety net? That's the kind of issue she's sort of illuminating for the party and for the country.
I mean, and even in that Senate, as Aisha put it, Richard, she has formed some interesting kind of alliances here and there. There's a bill she's actually co-sponsoring with John McCain, mm-hmm. And that would reinstate some of the Glass-Steagall Act. Mm-hmm. And one of the big beefs that a lot of Americans, not just on the left, have with the 90s, as good as they were economically for a lot of people, was that major parts of the Glass-Steagall Act were repealed. And so this bill would restore it.
Yeah, so I'm going to disagree a little bit with Heather, which I almost never do. And, I think this piece of legislation about the credit scores is an important one. It'd be great if she could get it passed. I think there actually is some potential there because there's a libertarian interest on the privacy violations. Mm-hmm. And so there's some, there should be the basis for a sort of bipartisan move on this. It does feel kind of small bore to me. The reason why people are not getting jobs is not usually because of this situation. It's because the jobs don't exist. So I'd like to see her put something bigger on the table, a stimulus of $1 trillion. The Glass-Steagall Act is a part of regulating finance that would be important on those terms. And so a Robin Hood tax would be something that's great. So this this speaks to her need to actually pass some legislation, and I understand that, to have a record. I also don't want her to stop being the kind of representative of the economic populist mood of the country as a whole.
Well, I mean, and this is going to sound really controversial, but Marcus, I mean, my question would be that maybe, perhaps in a sense, more importantly than legislative pieces that she's able to get through, does Elizabeth Warren kind of serve a similar function, and this is going to sound a little bit out there, but just let me get through it, that Ted Cruz kind of does, right? So Ted Cruz, he doesn't really pass any legislation, but he keeps the coalition from getting too far away from the base. Anytime they even think about getting away from far-right conservatism, there's Ted Cruz out there sort of hounding them back in that direction. And Elizabeth Warren, on a symbolic level, I mean, there is a little bit of a fear of getting away too much from economic populism. You can't go hang out on Wall Street too much as a Democrat and not worry that Elizabeth Warren's base will turn around and bite you.
I got to say, it says a lot about, I think, the state of our politics as a political analyst, that it's Ted Cruz on the right and Elizabeth Warren on the left. I mean, whoa.
Not similar at all, by the way,
exactly.
in substance.
The fact that the right can go that far and still be in the Senate, and the left only go that as far as Elizabeth Warren and still be in the Senate, says a lot about America, the kind of lopsided nature of our politics, doesn't it? I think it's amazing that she's risen, because she's not all typical politician. She doesn't have the profile or the kind of warmth that we were talking about earlier.
She's plenty warm.
But she's no, well, one might say she's no Hillary. We'll get to find out. The fact that you guys were playing that clip and we were going out to simply the best, that's amazing. I mean, Elizabeth Warren has arrived politically, and I find that extraordinary.
But isn't that, Aisha, because the idea of economic populism has arrived?
It's popular, exactly. I mean, we're talking about 68-70% of Americans who believe in the things that she's pushing. They want to see, us closing corporate tax loopholes, right? Like, they want to see an expansion of Medicaid, of Social Security.
Exactly.
Like, these things, they want to see a raise in the minimum wage. These things are popular, which it's so.
Okay, well,
That's what
I wish we had more time.
Talking about, right?
I wish we had more time to talk about. I'm sure Elizabeth Warren's PR team wishes we had more time. She's not as popular, but Heather McGhee, thank you so much.